Hi, my name is Jeff Provocero. I'm project manager here at NewKingdom Ministries, and we're with Apostle Peter Michael Martinez of Remnant House. And he has something very exciting to talk about. It's something that in these trying times, potential help. And I'll let him say what that is. Peter, pleasure to have you here. And
Jeff, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to sit. We're sitting here in our awesome spot here out in the middle of nowhere and enjoying the peace of the shalom of Elohim. Amen.
We're enjoying the peace for sure, and I understand that you have something that can possibly offer some peace to others in this trying time. It's I understand it's some type of new cryptocurrency. Now, how can that be something that could help people?
Well, first of all, we have to kind of back up a little bit. And one of the challenges that we face in our world, the big challenge that we face in our world is money supply. Who controls money? Who controls our way of life? Who controls our commerce? And it doesn't take long if you just take a good look at the US dollar to discern that whoever's printing these things worships someone else.
Yeah.
There is clear evidence by looking just at the US dollar,
Yeah.
that you're dealing with a very foreign spiritual entity.
Pyramids and owls and all kinds of weird stuff.
Exactly. So without wanting to get all conspiratorial here and conspiracy theorists and all of that, but instead just dealing with reality. There are spiritual forces at work in the world. And this is what dictates a lot of what we do and how we function. So when he told us to seek first the kingdom and his right ways or righteousness, that included the way in which we interact with one another. And commerce is a key to that, which is why the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil.
So you're saying the currency itself could be trapping us to some extent?
Without question, the currency itself is a trap. So people call, they'll say, hey, I got blessed because someone gave them some money. Well, it could be a blessing. It also could be a curse. Because remember, this stuff is all cursed by those who print it and make it. They do not honor our Elohim. They honor a different Elohim. And so this is what this is all dedicated to. So you don't have a choice but to look for an exit. You're trading Egyptian, Babylonian magic money. That's what you're trading between each other.
Because you hear stories of cursing of food and even clothing and things like that, or even broadcasts, but you're saying it could be over the money itself.
The money itself was the ultimate trick that they pulled on all of humanity. But when you just look at just the United States, we all know that when that changed, when that power was given to a foreign corporation to print, I don't have to go, there's plenty of videos on YouTube, BitChute, and all over the place that'll happily go take you through how we ended up here with a foreign entity printing your currency. And as a result of that, what are the results that we can now look at and see as it has affected all the nations that have been affected by the whole concept of central banking and again, foreign entities printing your currency, which, by the way, is antithetical to the U.S. Constitution, which dictates that only Congress should print and mint coin. So we're already operating outside of the bounds of the Constitution that formed the nation. And on top of that, you've given spiritual power because of the curses, because of the witchcraft, because of the other things that are elemental to the power of currency. You've given too much authority to your enemy.
But Apostle Peter, the average person will say, let's say that's true, I'm stuck. I have to go to Amazon. I have to go to Walmart.
Right.
I have to go to these places. I have to use this currency. And how else do I get my stuff? I don't necessarily want to deal with these people, but what's my alternative?
Well, you're not raising a new circumstance. Again, remember Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. And you're not raising a new circumstance. In fact, the 12 tribes of Israel had to go to Egypt, if you recall, in order to purchase grain. And I'm certain that when they did, they couldn't use whatever currency they were using in Canaan. They had to switch to or use gold or use something that would be more common. And so we've, through Earth's ages, had to interact with the world. To be in the world and not of it doesn't mean that we're not interacting with them. So we need to be able to interact when needed. However, we need to continue to maintain ourselves as separate. And so that is right in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament. It says, be ye separate, be ye holy, for I am holy, which is set apart. And he continues to command us to be separate, to abide in such a way that there's a distinction. And so now, in this era, we have something that we never had before. The ability literally to create currency. And with the advent of cryptocurrency gives us the ability to create a parallel to the world's currency systems that allows us to be separate. So that's the power of this, and that's why we gravitated toward it. I believe, based on its functionality, that cryptocurrency is a much more fair and a closer to righteous system than a system that allows them to print indefinitely and dilute your currency anytime they feel like it. And which is what you're seeing today. When you go to the grocery store, when you go to use your currency, your US dollars, you're finding they have less and less power. So the power inside the dollar is depleting. This is the exact opposite of the way it should work. The way that it should work is your money supply should be limited. This would be a just weight and a just measure. Therefore, each unit of measure should actually increase in value. Not decrease in value.
So hang on a second, just for the, just so I understand, just so the people in the bleachers can understand. You're saying all these fancy terms of cryptocurrency, really it's just another form of exchange. Like I have a dollar, or I have a Canadian dollar, or I have a Chinese yuan, or I have Chuck E. Cheese tokens. It's something I can get the stuff that I need with.
I think the Chuck E. Cheese tokens is a great example. Let's start with that. You go to Chuck E. Cheese, you take US dollars, you convert it to a little card, and you can play video games. And if you win enough tickets, you can take those little coupons that you got out of the game and go up to the counter and buy whatever they're going to give you for those coupons, depending upon how many you won. So if you won 200, you look under what's available for 200 or less, and you can trade them. We've all done this with our children, all right? What they've essentially done is created a secondary currency inside of Chuck E. Cheese.
Okay.
All right.
So I exchange my dollars for Chuck E. Cheese tokens or a cryptocurrency.
Right.
And then I use that token to get stuff just like I would have with
It makes literally no difference.
Okay.
The history of currency, if you did any of that, it's a fascinating story. I believe the Bank of England was purchased with a stick. Men have used various things as currency through the centuries. And now with crypto, what I like about it, what confirmed in my spirit, was the fact that you need 2 or 3 witnesses for every transaction to be legitimized.
Interesting.
Which of course is a biblical principle. So when I saw that, that was one of the things that intrigued me. I thought that's difficult to cheat in a system like that. So for example, we're going to be talking about the NewKingdom token. There's a limit to the number of tokens that have been created, which means as they circulate, they go up in value.
Wow. So
they essentially become, well, let's take Bitcoin as an example. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, was the first one, and it started off just like all the rest of them, down in the dirt, as a penny or two.
Yeah.
It was ridiculously cheap.
Right.
Today, Bitcoin is trading over 60,000 US dollars per token.
The same Bitcoin coin that was you could get for a penny,
a couple pennies,
is now worth
$60,000 or more. Right. At last check,
Wow.
it had crossed 60,000. I don't know where it is at the time of this recording, but it was over $60,000, which tells you just how far since Bitcoin was created, how much value in the US dollar has actually been lost.
Okay, so that's a great point. Let's talk about that. Let's assume, okay, a New Kingdom shekel is the same as any other currency in the sense that I can get stuff with it. Okay, great. Now I think what you're talking about is, okay, now there's different forms of exchange. What's the advantage of the shekel over other forms of exchange? You just mentioned one, that it increases in value over time. In other words, what you're saying is I can get more stuff with it tomorrow than I could today.
Well, in general, that's the general trajectory. Obviously, day to day, it goes up and down. But in general, the trajectory is it improves against the dollar. Now, that's just one elemental. It is a base elemental. In other words, it's something that we all can look at with our common sense and go, okay, if I have to choose between where I want to store my wealth,
right,
I don't think it's wise to store it in a fiat currency that is losing value by the winds of people's opinions all the time.
So if I have $20,000 in the bank, next year I might only be able to buy.
Buying. You may have the same $20,000, but what does the $20,000 buy you? How can it be converted? Right. So this is the issue. Currency's only value is its ability to be converted. If it can't purchase you anything, it does you no good. So Bitcoin, despite the fact that it's over $60,000 right now, if you were in a crash situation where there's only, base elemental things available and no one wants your Bitcoin, no one can eat your Bitcoin, it doesn't have an intrinsic value of itself. None of the cryptos, none of the fiats do. So all of those will fail, all right? The actual currency for a period of time will be food. Food will be a currency because, again, you can eat food. You can't eat gold. You can't eat silver. But here's the thing that what people don't understand is that all of these different currencies are all based for the fair day, for fair skies and blue skies and wonderful days. They're not built for the day of trouble. The New Kingdom shekel is the only one that I know of that was created with the intention of giving you a platform for the day of trouble, for the day of tribulation, for the day of difficulty.
Why is that? Let's say I have $1 or a Bitcoin, and let's say for whatever reason, I just can't use it. Regardless of the value, there's restrictions attached to it. Nobody wants it because what they actually want is food. For whatever reason, I have it, but I can't use it.
Right.
So what's different about the shekel? How can that be used in a time of trouble?
What he gave to me was that our responsibility apostolically, not just mine, but all of the apostles and prophets and evangelists, pastors and teachers, the captains of Elohim, those who are chosen of Elohim to protect and preserve his people. Jeremiah 23 tells us he raises up shepherds, right? That he could cause the people of Elohim, the remnant of his fold, of his flock, to return to their folds, will be fruitful and increase. The difference between the New Kingdom NKDM shekel and every other currency is that this is the only one we will accept on site. So, for example, if you show up at our gate and you are a member of Remnant House or have the New Kingdom shekel in your portfolio, we have a record of that. All their systems could have crashed, it won't matter, because our systems are isolated and we have our own power. So they can't even turn our systems off if they wanted to, okay? And so we have a record of that, which means your currency remains. Your buying power has stayed with that, because whatever we have in our general store, in our shekel mart, okay, in our wherever you happen to check in, that is going to be still a liquid currency in our location. Whereas you could show up with $1 billion worth of U.S. currency and we will look at you like you're weird.
Okay.
You could show up with $1 trillion. You could be Elon Musk showing up with $50 billion and you're broke as far as we're concerned. Because the only currency we're going to accept in that situation, when it gets to that point, would be the New Kingdom shekel. So you will have to hope that we're still converting. And the only reason why we will be converting is because we can take those US dollars or euros or whatever and use them to acquire things that we need for the sake of our brethren. The minute we can't do that anymore, all of that money stops being done. So if they put a restriction on us and say, we don't care if you have $1 million US, you can no longer buy and sell in our system, we no longer will be trading US dollars anymore because they're useless to us at that point. So you could have $1 trillion in US dollars. You're now stuck in that system.
So what you're saying, in effect, if I'm understanding you, is that I could have $1 trillion in my bank account, but if there was such a time that I couldn't buy or sell with dollars for whatever reason,
right? Because they control that currency.
Because they control that savings account, that $1 trillion would be completely useless to me. But
unless you're willing to compromise, take their marks, do whatever they tell you to do, jump through their hoops, right?
Yeah, to do things you have to do in order to do this, you have to do this type of thing. So, but that same situation, if I had some shekels and I showed up at a New Kingdom community property, I could exchange those shekels for
food,
the equivalent of an Amazon, a Shekel Mart instead of a Walmart.
You could do it online.
Or you could even do it online.
You could do it online and we'll ship it to you.
So therefore, there would still be a medium of exchange. I could get the stuff I need.
That's correct. That's mask free. That's mark free. Right?
That's being provided by people that don't want to do you harm, or restrict your freedom and that type of thing.
So we're watching what they're doing. We can see very clearly what is being set up. I think everyone who is a Bible student and that is paying attention to what they're doing with commerce, with the ability to sell your time, which is a foundational, elemental part of commerce in our world, and they have interfered with that now.
With employment situations.
With employment, with every... I don't have to go into details. Everybody who's listening to this knows what I'm talking about. So they've now put in these barriers, and they're not going to stop. They're going to keep putting them in. So this demarcation, this separation, is not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. All right? So again, right now we're at a humble beginning spot. We're not despising the day of humble beginnings.
Right.
We're a very, very infinitesimal part of this. But this is where we have no choice but to go. Because if you don't depart, if you don't disconnect, then they have you. Because sooner or later you're going to need these basic things. And they know it. So they're going to wait you out like a siege on a city. They're going to wait you out. Okay?
So it's almost like the wise philosopher once said, wherever you are, that becomes the place to be. If everyone leaves and everyone pools their resources, talents in a separate place, then, therefore, that's where the stuff is. That's where the value is. That's where
what we're finding
skills
out
are.
Is that with even just a few people gathered together, and people that are doing this right now, who are banding together in different parts of the country, I know for a fact that the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, is moving people out into groups. It's being done very quietly. It's being done, without any fanfare because that's more secure. But it's happening in big numbers.
Yeah.
Because people are realizing this system, the way it's been working, this Hunger Games system, is coming to an end.
They're taking all their marbles ultimately, and they're going to go home.
Right.
And say,
so what they made hospitable for you for a long time will stop being hospitable. What they made acceptable to you, they're pulling the same thing they did in Sodom and Gomorrah. They paid exorbitant wages to people, but then they didn't sell them any food. So, they did major wickedness, and it's the same thing. They're doing it now. They're artificially going to restrict your food supplies, or artificially going to restrict your supplies of all things, because they want to force you to do what they want you to do. Now, I understand that, and I totally get why they're doing it. We just disagree. We wholeheartedly disagree. We believe this to be more than just an economic issue or more than just a political issue. This is a religious issue. This is about our spirituality. This is about our eternal life. And so those that are taking these things lightly are not reading and not paying attention. So anyone who would propose something that violates those very sacred religious rights, which our founding fathers in the United States died to protect, is asking for all-out conflict. And that's what we see these forces doing. So rather than we can't do anything about the scripture being fulfilled. It's going to be fulfilled regardless. What we can do is endure. And so what Yahusha said was, he that endures to the end, the same shall be saved. Now, how are you going to plan to endure? If you've been using a currency that's a trap, an economic trap for you, then you have to somehow slip that noose. Now, people figure, all right, I got crypto. I got Bitcoin. I got Ether. All right, I've got Litecoin. I've got some of these other, and they're really doing really well. Also traps. Because, again, unless Bitcoin suddenly gets, a community to back it, if you will. Yeah. In other words, if they start planting a Bitcoin flag everywhere, and you can actually go there, you get what I'm saying? There's no infrastructure to back that up. It's still tied to the same U.S. dollar system. It's still tied to the same fiat currency system.
There's no breakaway place for me to be able to get my food and things that I need. So what I'm hearing you say is almost like, instead of sitting around and complaining about the system, to simply separate out, and if you build it, they will come. And the sooner we separate out and pool all our resources and talents and keep it for each other, the sooner we can build something separate and not have to give it to Babylon or Egypt. And then we don't have to complain, because we are now building a separate type of place so that the crypto has a place to be used.
Multiple places. But again, we're not just talking about something that we feel like would be a good idea. We are commanded to do this. We are under command from heaven itself directly to depart. Revelation 18 is very clear. Come out of her, my people, and be not a partaker of her sins, lest you receive of her plagues, which we see clearly coming upon people right now. They're dying left and right. Secondly, he also told us, again, in Jeremiah 23, he tells us that we have to find our folds, where he's raising up shepherds, where we will be fruitful and increase. So we have a word of a fruitful increase when we abide together. Now, again, that is not a casual thing. So Psalm 133, yet again another witness, does not say where people get together once in a while. He commands the blessing where brethren dwell together in unity. There, Yahuwah commands the blessing, even life evermore. So we got suckered into these fake communities. Communities based on sporting arenas, shopping malls, commerce-based, employment-based communities that are collapsing, because those aren't very strong things to hold people together. And that's why real estate is going to go through major, major tumult right now, because the new centers, if you will, have to change. But beyond that, again, we're just from a practical standpoint, how comfortable do you feel? How comfortable is the average person feeling with the way in which they're able to print indefinite amounts of your currency that you count on for your long-term survival? And the prospects are not good, because again, what they've shown over time, and that's been proven over time, is that they will erode, if not outright steal, that value.
Well, in some countries, they're flat out just taking the money. They're calling it negative interest, where they just go into your saving, your bank account, and just take it. So there's many ways it can be in danger. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to make that point clear. Before, when you were saying the general trend line for cryptos is to go up, you're saying that it's not necessarily for sure going to go up, but you're saying because it's not inflated, because it's a set number of coins.
There's nowhere else for it to go.
Not building anymore, that it's a limited supply. So as the communities develop, it adds value, more demand, same supply. The tendency long term is for it to go up instead of down. Which, as the fiat currencies are going down.
Now remember who we're talking about here. We're talking about the remnant. You're talking about people who are to be admired because they're stalwart in their stance to hold fast to the holy things. These are the people that we're talking about supplying the foods, supplying the stores, supplying the things. So let's talk about just the quality difference in terms of what we're able to source versus what the world will sell you. What we're finding out as we look, that their currency is not only itself tainted, but all the goods that you can buy with it are tainted. We're finding that there really are two tracks. There's this sort of common track that they want to put everybody on, and everything is poisoned, from your clothing, your food, your lotions, your potions. Everything you put on your body, in your body, or around your body has chemicals that are leaching into your skin, into your pores, into your body to do you harm. All right, so there's more to this than just basic commerce. There is a flat-out disconnect here that we have no choice but to do, from everything from clothing to food to water to every element of our lives. We have got to get a little Amish here and go, you know what? You guys go right ahead, DuPont and all these other chemical companies and whatever, Monsanto and whatever, GMO creators. We're done with you.
Yeah.
Okay? We might be tiny. We might only have this little tiny little thing. But this little tiny thing is better than having this giant amount that's all poisoned.
So you're saying I have some shekels. Not only am I not restricted, I'm free and I don't have restrictions put on me, but I get to get better products that don't poison me.
Right now, I mean, define freedom. In their system, you wouldn't be very free because the shekel is new, right? So it's not liquid yet. We need support. We need people to buy the shekel, hold it. We need you to buy it and anticipating its increase. It went from a dime to a quarter. So we know it will go up. But the point is not just about holding or buying an asset. It's about understanding where we're going. It's about understanding the full departure. The level of departure that we have to do here is biblical. It is no less than full out departure from Egypt. Because if we don't, if we keep using their tools, you see what they do to you. Yeah. You see how they play this game. And the moment you are stuck, in other words, I have no other choice, your mind cascades. But as soon as he provides the way of escape, okay, now he's provided the way of escape, you don't have to stay with that. You can switch over to some other currency. Why does that matter to you? First of all, you're not keeping witchcraft money in storage. All right, let's just be honest here. That's a big issue. You're not storing your wealth there. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Okay? Instead, if you moved it into even just Bitcoin, even if you moved it into that crypto space, not only would it have stabilized or even gone up in value, in the last year it would have skyrocketed. Okay, so your 20,000 would have become 60,000.
Wow.
If you would have put it in Bitcoin.
Right.
Just in the last year.
Right.
Right? So where else could you have gotten that kind of result, right? So crypto clearly is outperforming stocks, bonds, real estate, like everything.
Right.
But there's a reason for that. The reason is because the fiats are dropping, and you just barely notice it because you didn't have anything to compare it to. Now you do.
When you say fiats, you mean like the U.S. dollar?
The U.S. dollar, backed by nothing.
Chinese yuan.
Right.
Well, the infinite printing press, the multi-trillion-dollar spending that just results in your savings account being worth less and less and less.
Correct.
And less.
So what about all the people that put away for their savings, thought they had saved up enough, thought they for sure would be fine, and now they go to the grocery store, now they go to the store, and they find out that their dollar buys less over time. So over time expired, and the dollar's dropping in value, right? Why is that? Why would that be the case? And by comparison, what should you expect? With the shekel, that same 1,000 shekels, for example, has a certain buying power today. Very small because it's new. But as time goes on, that $1,000 or 1,000 shekels against the dollar buys more and more and more. So it goes up in value per token, not down.
Because they're not printing any more shekels, but they are printing more dollars. So more dollars chasing the same shekels.
Correct.
The value increases relative to the dollar.
Correct. The more dollars you have out there to the shekels that are not moving, you need more dollars now to match each shekel. So each time they print more, even that will cause all the cryptos to adjust.
So I'm glad you brought that up. So this is in effect a pre-ICO situation for the shekel in the sense that the liquidity is not fully there yet. So in the sense that there's not an open market, I can just sell them. Just sell them immediately and get immediate liquidity immediately. But what you're saying, if I'm understanding, is that assuming that this is a Revelations 18 moment, a Matthew 24 moment, a Jeremiah 23 moment, Psalms 133 moment, assuming that this is that time in history, as people do the Exodus and the heading for the hills that they are commanded to do, that type thing will add value to the shekel community, and same number of shekels, increased demand, could be a type of situation where instead of giving our wealth to Egypt, we just keep it for ourselves. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you're strengthening the nation. So New Kingdom is the regathering of the 12 tribes. And we're going to continue to proclaim the regathering of the 12 tribes that are scattered, because the king is coming. And that is what he said would happen. So we know that this is his move. This isn't something Peter came up with or you came up with. Somebody just dreamt. This is him bringing his people back together. The shekel is the only authorized instrument. We were like, what do we do? How do we do this? And he had to instruct us on what is and isn't authorized. He authorized the temple shekel. In fact, we found it in the code. That was something that Brother Scott Bunnell will be putting out a video to talk about the table that he found with the shekel in it. And so we know we have authorization to do this, that he's leading us on this. And so what's it really for? It's really meant to be an exit point, an economic exit point for the children of Israel, the people who want to be disconnecting from the world, that can see where this is going and need an exit point. We know that this is going to take development. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. Right now, we need captains. We need those developers. We need people that are going to be part of this team and stop giving your energy. So when you talk about labor, we're not just talking about construction labor or retail labor or warehouse labor. We're also talking about graphics labor and electronic or digital labor and creating various things that help make our interfacing with the world and with one another much smoother. We have the tools to do this very easily. We just have to stop fighting one another. We need to unite and come together and pool those resources, not so that we can necessarily be, it's not for our benefit so much as it's what we have to do to endure.
There has to be a structure. People have to be able to go from one structure to another.
Absolutely.
So let's say someone out there is saying, okay, fine, I believe this is that moment in history, in biblical history, and I want to get out, I want to separate. Practical terms, how do I get into that ecosystem? How do I translate in with shekels, with tokens, with the Chuck E. Cheese tokens, and the Shekel Mart, and the...
You got to see where it's going. You got to see where it's going. So right now, if you knew where Bitcoin was going, and it's being made available to you for 50 cents, you buy all the Bitcoin you can buy, not because you need Bitcoin right then, not because there's anything you could do with it at that moment,
right?
But because you've had a vision, like you've had a moment, you're like, oh, Bitcoin's eventually going to be trading at $60,000,
right?
So I want to buy as much of these as I can right now.
I can't buy for 50 cents and turn around tomorrow and sell it for 50 cents. There's not that type of liquidity now.
No.
But if you see where things are going, the possibilities, this would be a good time in that scenario.
So let me explain some of the liquidity issues, because that's you keep hitting that, and I think that's something that a lot of people are going to be wondering about. The way that we're releasing the shekel is in stages. So we have earmarked a certain number of the tokens that we've created, excuse me, to be released into the market between now and the end of Passover of 2022. So there are 5 releases. We just went through one gate, if you will, and there's 5 more gates to go through where the shekel price will be adjusted. So right now the price was adjusted from a dime to a quarter. So anybody that bought at a dime, their shekels are now worth 25 cents each as opposed to 10 cents each. So we see this structured increase to Passover. All right. So we're going to end up, by the way that this is structured, as I understand it, over $2.50 per shekel by Passover. So we're ramping it upward. At the same time, we're adding infrastructure. We're adding Shekel Mart, which will be coming online over the winter, where you'll be able to use your shekels to make purchases. So we will begin doing that very soon, where you'll be able to go to shekelmart.com and make a purchase with your shekels. So you can buy some of the same items that you would buy on an Amazon or a Walmart.com, but you're going to go to Shekel Mart and use your shekels, which will be credited to your account inside that shopping cart, and you can use that. So you don't need to go into the US dollar at all if you are for anything that you're purchasing there. Now our task then will be to continually increase the offerings that we offer inside that umbrella.
Wow.
So that's our new task, right? So our task is to continuously, nonstop, source every vertical. We're talking about soaps, bottled water, fertilizer, linen, even diapers.
Right.
I mean, just basic things. Clothing, various things that are natural products that we use every day. For example, the soaps, I mention this all the time. We have a wonderful community of believers who make great things, but they're not in Walmart. Right. You're not going to find them in Safeway. You're not going to find them in these places, but we want to make them available.
But they're safe. They don't contain
They're
poisons
safe products,
and chemicals.
exactly. Soaps that have been made, you know, or what have you. And this is a biggie, by the way, because you bathe in this every day.
Right.
And so those that are bathing in soaps that have poisons in them are wondering where they're getting cancer and all these different things, these sicknesses and diseases. Guess what? You can't trust these people. It's become pretty obvious that
a lot of people
our trust levels are dropping by the day.
Yeah.
Okay? So these are all elemental things that we have to do our best as we wait out this time period. We have to do our best to replace or mitigate what we're going to lose, what we're leaving behind. Because there's no question we're leaving it behind. So now the question is, well, how do we endure to the end having left that behind? Those people that are still deciding, they probably already turned this off. Because they're still hoping that the dollar makes a comeback. They believe in the Babylonian money magic. They believe in the prosperity of the Babylonian system. And they're praying for it. They're literally pulling for its recovery, which I find incredible beyond words, incredulous that we have saints praying for this Babylonian slavery to continue when the Lord of the Sabbath has pronounced judgment upon it.
You're saying the time is no longer to pray to keep America, the world system, Babylon up, but instead this is the time to let it be judged and to depart.
Listen, even your gold and silver is going to be cankered. So it's not just a fiat currency. It's not just one system or another. Gold and silver.
Wow.
The very basis of what people consider to be the basis of all currencies. It's cankered. So what's he going to... There's a thing going on here where he's separating one thing and he's declaring it holy, set apart for a set apart people. I don't know how to emphasize that enough, but the people that know what that means will pick it up. It's the only one. It's the only one being operated from set apart land. It's the only one being operated by set apart people. So if you find something better than that, by all means, send me a note. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Because I feel as if I don't know if anyone else is going to solve this problem. So we have to do what we can so that no matter where a captain puts a flag in the ground, whether it's in North America or anywhere in the world, that flag represents not only the king and the kingdom, but also represents the support of his brothers and sisters. And that's what the shekel represents. The shekel represents our unity. Amen? It is a symbol or a token of our unity in Yahuwah and Yahusha. And the more we unite there, sharing it, blessing one another, encouraging one another. Businesses start accepting it. All right? Start saying, you know what? I'll take that. I'll start accepting that. I'll sell my equipment or my goods on that basis. And the more and more that start doing that, this is when it takes off. This is when it becomes more real. Right now, it's just a cryptocurrency. It should be foldable. It should be in print as well. Amen? And when you come to the tabernacle, you should be able to acquire actual silver shekels that are actual 1 ounce shekels, the way that they're meant to be. So these are the kinds of things that we believe should be done exactly the way the Torah says. They should be done in a righteous way that does not rob value from the holders, but instead they should go to their account and say, oh my, look at that, it went up. It's not so much it went up, it's the others are going down. I'm just saying.
Well, that is excellent, Apostle Peter. That is fantastic. I don't know what else to say. Beyond that, I think there's a lot of people that are aware of problems, and this sounds like a very practical solution. Even if someone's not necessarily a Bible scholar, nonetheless, this is a practical method by which anyone can join in and participate in such a way that they can potentially have an insurance policy to get things they need in a day of trouble, and also possibly protect their assets as opposed to
even from just an investment standpoint. That's exactly true. But let's take it another step. To the extent
that the saints provide the value behind it.
Let's talk about something else that you may not see the same way I do, and I know you know this, but each location has independent power. So when you think of the world going blackout, when you think of the world under the control of wicked men, and what are they going to do to you? What have they already demonstrated that they will do to you? They will shut your power.
Yeah.
They will shut your power off in the middle of the winter.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is another element that we are arresting on our properties. So again, if that flag is there, there's electricity there. There's power there. It's more than that. Right now, because we've now crossed into that next phase, we not only have that element everywhere we plant our flag. So as money is coming in, as more people buy the shekel, as people are picking up the shekel, we're going to talk about how to get that here in a second. As people pick that up, they're strengthening the captains. They get the cryptocurrency, we get the strength. We both win. We both win. Somebody wrote to me and said, I'd love to give you this money, but I can't give it to you, but I'll buy the shekel with it. It's this, you still basically did help us.
So that's a great point. You're saying, I don't think people fully understand. They cannot kind of understand the shekel, the cryptocurrency, but tied to it are these communities.
Yes.
Anywhere where the flag is planted, this is a place in a time of trouble where people can go, and it's in effect a self-sustaining community.
Correct.
That's not dependent on the power being shut off.
These monies are made to support those places.
So I have a place to go. I
Right.
have something to use when I get there to exchange when I'm there.
Right. It's your name's on the list. You're included. Right?
And because I got the shekel beforehand, I actually helped build
Yes.
a very self-sustaining community that I might need to go to.
That's right. If it weren't for you doing that, that community wouldn't be there. So because you bought the shekel now, later on when you need it and it's there, you're going to be like, thank you, Father, for leading me to that, because now I have, and I wish I had converted more. Many people will have that regret because...
So I'm someplace. I'm in Texas. I'm in some place, and I get some shekel. Unbeknownst to me, by buying the shekel, by converting the dollars, those dollars got used to help build a community in Texas.
Yes.
Plus, I still have the shekels.
You still have the shekels.
So now I have a place to go to.
Yes.
Where I'm in relatively safety. I can get what I need.
Mm-hmm.
But I still got my shekels on top of it.
Right. So
I've helped the very community I need, and I still have my purchasing power.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
And it might possibly go up in value on top of that.
When
so
he
you're
does
talking
something,
about a win-win-win.
when he does something, okay, and I want you to get this. This is for everyone. When he brings a blessing, it's not like the devil. The devil brings you a blessing and he tricks you, right? It's a trick. When he gives you a blessing, he adds no sorrow with it. When Yahuwah blesses you, there's no sorrow with it. Okay? There's no trick at the end. It's too good to be true. All right? This is what you're going to experience. Too good to be true. So, for example, not everybody's in the same economic strata, right? But they want to secure a place of safety. Makes sense? Some people can only afford a campsite. That's all they get.
Right.
Is enough to scrounge enough together between them so they have room to camp, right? Others might have enough room to maybe put a cottage out somewhere.
Wow.
Okay. Others, a townhouse. Others are going to have enough to build a whole house.
Wow.
In the community, right? But here's the benefit that we give right now in this stage that we're in. Anyone who comes in with the resources, and each one of these have a certain price point, which they can contact us and find out about. But if they came in with that amount, so let's say they paid for a campsite, they don't just pay; they get the shekel.
Oh, okay.
So they got they gave that much and bought shekels for that much. But in addition to getting the shekels that they now get to put in their wallet, they also now just paid for that thing, the campsite or the house.
So I'm not just helping the community in general. I've got a specific home waiting for me, a structure, whether it's a camp or a townhome or a home.
Correct.
For me.
That's what we're doing right now, quietly.
Safe area, relatively safe area, away from the hustle and bustle of downtown city, let's say.
Correct.
So I'm helping the community. I've got a place reserved for me, and I get shekels, which I can then use with my home in my community, which may possibly go up.
You got both. So you have now a trading crypto that later on you could sell for dollars, but you still kept the house because you helped us. So you got both.
Versus sitting around waiting for my dollars in my bank account to be worth less and less relative to what I can buy at the grocery store.
I can't help you with that. Can't help anybody in that system. All I can do is help the people that cross over. Okay? That's what Hebrew means, cross over. So you don't want to cross over, I can't help you. But if you cross over, you graft in, right?
Right.
Now that's a whole different situation. Now your whole family is supporting you. Now you've come into a situation where our whole family is supporting, because every one of us is supporting the shekel. Everybody uses it. We all use it internally, right? Only when we go into the world do we have to convert back to the US dollar. That should continue to expand as the communities expand, as we continue to get further and further away from Babylon.
Well, thank you, Apostle Peter. This was very interesting and timely, given what's going on, current events. So for anyone who is listening, what I'm hearing you say is the way that they can join in is go to remnanthouse.org. I just purchased some shekels. As you've said, not your rent money, anything you need for practical purposes, but something you can afford to put away for the future as a potential insurance policy against a day of trouble, as an example. That will ultimately be liquid, will fluctuate up and down, but in a day of trouble, it's something that can be used, whereby I can go get some shekel, put it away, help build a community that I might possibly in the future need, while at the same time reserving a specific home for myself, while keeping shekels that I could then use for getting stuff that I need. That sounds pretty timely, and I would recommend everybody do that according to as they're led. So, and that sounds like a pretty timely, practical tool, solution, and I would recommend everyone do that according to as they are led. Thank you very much, Apostle Peter. This has been very informative. Thank you for the timeliness of the introduction of this potential solution, and thank you very much.